Good morning again, and we begin this morning in Little Rock, Arkansas, with one of the U.S. attorneys who was replaced, Bud Cummins. Now, welcome, Mr. Cummins.
Thank you.
Were one of those who realized this was a presidential appointment. You learned that you were being replaced, frankly, to make room in the U.S. attorney slot for a pal of the president's political advisor, Karl Rove. You saw nothing wrong with that. The president appointed you. You served at the president's pleasure. But then suddenly the Justice Department starts talking about these attorneys being removed for poor performance. You didn't like that very much. I think they've now come back and said, well, now you were not one of those removed for poor performance. But what did they do wrong here, Mr. Cummins?
Well, what they did is they tried to tell the Senate, when the Senate asked them, we didn't ask them, but the Senate asked them, why did you make these unprecedented decisions regarding the United States attorneys? And they have told the United States Senate that they were trying to improve management in the districts and that there were performance issues. And all of us knew that that wasn't true. And all the evidence since has shown that whatever went on behind the scenes to arrive at these 8 decisions was probably petty, maybe personal, and probably had some politics involved in it, but performance wasn't on the table or at least in a respectable way in the process when it occurred.
Well, did you feel that that they smeared the reputations of some of these attorneys by taking this position that they did?
Yes, sir, and I think it's outrageous. I think that somebody didn't want to explain why they were going about this. As I said, this had never happened before. So somebody had an idea that they wanted to create some vacancies, maybe settle some personal scores with a couple of the United States attorneys, maybe accommodate a senator or somebody else outside the department that was complaining. But there's processes within the department to evaluate United States attorneys. None of those were utilized in this process. And we do serve at the pleasure of the president. But in this case, it looks like that authority was delegated down through Harriet Myers, Karl Rove, Judge Gonzalez, and all the way down to a bunch of 35-year-old kids who got in a room together and tried to decide who was most loyal to the president. Whatever happened, it wasn't performance, and these were some great U.S. attorneys. They shouldn't be slandered.
Let me ask you this. I understand you got a call from the Justice Department suggesting that when you did leave, you ought to keep quiet about it.
Well, at one point I was quoted in the paper, and there was a call, and the suggestion was that it wasn't in our best interest to continue to have publicity, and frankly, whether it was a threat or not, what I exactly envisioned that they were promising was what we've seen in the last 2 weeks. This document dump of a lot of random memos and things that tend to maybe indicate that 1 or 2 U.S. attorneys had some principled issues with the department management. But here's the thing. Among all those documents, there's no evidence of a credible performance review process, as the Attorney General has described and the Deputy Attorney General. And they haven't colored up claims even close to 7 or 8 of us, only a few of us. And this is a 7-game parlay. They have to win all 7 to be telling the truth. They can't say, well, prove up that maybe 1 or 2 of us had some issues that might have merited dismissal. They've got to prove all 7 because that's what they told the Senate. And that's the issue. But what's really unfortunate is in the process, we're all getting caught in the middle.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Cummins, for coming forward this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
On Friday's CBS Evening News, we aired an interview with Sharon Eubanks, a career lawyer who spent more than 2 decades at the Justice Department. She told a shocking story that 2 years ago, high-level political appointees forced her to soften the government's case in a big lawsuit against the tobacco companies, accusing them of covering up the dangers of smoking. Over her objection, political appointees ordered a drastic reduction from $130 billion to $10 billion that she wanted the companies to lay out to help smokers break the habit. They watered down her closing argument in the case and ordered her to read it as written, told her to drop demands that some company officials be removed, and told her to change some of her witnesses' testimony. Well, what did they want them to say?
Well, it was more what they didn't want them to say.
And you believe in your heart that these instructions you got from above were because these people wanted to go easy on the tobacco companies?
I do believe that, and I'm not the only one.
Sharon Eubanks talked to us in the Washington Post last week because the case is now on appeal, and she's afraid the government may try to back off its demands on the tobacco company. She left the Justice Department a year and a half ago. She said she was fed up, and she told me she was disillusioned. Senator Leahy, this seems to me to be worse than replacing presidential appointees, these U.S. attorneys.
Well, I think it's all part of the same. What they're doing is taking a federal law enforcement system and federal judicial system that's the envy of the world because of its independence and its competence and its integrity, and trying to dismantle that by forcing out U.S. attorneys because they don't like what they're doing. But in this case, it's egregious. I mean, all the years I was a trial lawyer, all the years I was a prosecutor, I never saw a case where they told, in her case, told her, here's word for word what you read in your final argument. And when she had a case that she was going to win and get enormous damages that would go into the U.S. Treasury, they said, no, these are our friends, you've got to cut it back. I have never seen anything in Democratic or Republican administrations that begins to equal that.